This portion of This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by the Soybean Checkoff. Tips, videos, how-tos, and more. If it has to do with ag tech, you'll find it in the Tech Tool Shed, your unbiased one-stop resource. And we're back talking USDA reports with our good friend Dale Durkholz. Dale, taking a look at this acreage report, both corn and soybeans came in below the average trade analyst expectation. Where do you fall on your level of surprise based on this USDA acreage report? Let's talk corn right off the bat. 92.7 million acres coming from USDA. Do you buy it?
I guess the first place I want to start really isn't any particular item, whether it's corn, soybeans, wheat, or cotton, and it's going back and looking at the total. I haven't looked at the state-by-state breakdown in these yet, but I'm plugging in about 2 million acres for prevent plant because we really didn't have any serious problems this year, and I think that's a fair number. But my total for 16 different crops planted this year is 311 million acres, and that's down from last year's 314 million acres. In the last 5 years, we've ranged anywhere from around 314 on the low side to 315 on the high side. And I guess I kind of scratch my head, and I think about the fact that we have had extraordinarily high prices this spring. We've had farmers being told we have demand from China as far as the eye can see, and the rest of the demand is going to hold up at reasonably high levels. We've had crop problems down in Brazil. This week, we had frost issues down there. And yet farmers are going to plant fewer acres. And I find that really a stretch at this point. I mean, maybe it does turn out to be true. The thing that I know about this, though, is that the first time we really get a check on this is going to be the first go-round of FSA numbers on acreage that we'll see in August. And those are still going to be a little preliminary, so maybe we have to rely on September and October. But those August preliminary acreage numbers may tell us a little bit about how good these numbers are. So the first thing I looked at was my whole overall acreage number. I think that's where you always have to start.
Yeah, no, that does make a lot of sense. All of these acres, corn, beans, wheat, barley, oats, et cetera, they're all coming out of the vast pool, which is America's arable ground. Dale, and even though we did see the acreage, the planted acreage come in below analyst expectations, corn was about 1 million below, soybeans were down a little bit as well. It is still an increase over the March planting intentions out of USDA. So I've got to imagine that a lot of folks in the trade, their balance sheets are getting a little bit bigger after this report. And we'll probably use these numbers until we get that update from FSA in August. Would that be right?
Well, the bean number coming in the same, and you look at it, where the analyst expectations were, with corn, we were up close to 94 million. With beans, we were up there, a little over 89 million acres. A lot of those private balance sheets that people had been putting together really were based upon those, not the March USDA numbers, because a lot of people looked at that. And again, back in March, we had this loss, which was a little bit larger in total acres than what this one implies. You had a lot of people thinking, yeah, we're probably still going to see some bigger acreage numbers with these high prices when we see the report here in June, and now we don't. So we're going to have to find everybody across the board, corn and beans in particular, sitting down and pushing a pencil on those balance sheets once again and shrinking them down a little bit, with the acreage numbers we have here today, because with planting going as well as it did this year, and certainly compared to the last 2 years, it was really good. We didn't have really huge wet issues. We had cold weather as much as anything middle part of May, but not enough to not plant. We didn't have issues that would really prevent acres from being planted on a broad scale, and dry soils don't count in that. They have to be wet.
Yep.
And so everybody's going to have to go back and start putting together some tighter balance sheets looking forward into 21, 22 crops.
You bet we'll have to sharpen those pencils. Folks, that's our friend Dale Durkholz from Grain Cycles.